Clash Royale should be dead. So why isn't it? After everything that's happened over the last few years, all the controversial updates, it really feels like Clash Royale should not still be alive today. Not just past its peak, but actually dead. And yet somehow it isn't. To understand why, you gotta go back to what Clash Royale used to be. Before Heroes, before Evolutions, before level 16. Now, don't worry, I'm not gonna go all the way back to 2016 and yap forever about irrelevant stuff, but let me quickly show you what I mean. When something didn't work, it got changed by the dev team. Battles used to cost gold, players hated that, so the system got removed. Epics were hard to get, so Epic Sunday was added. Players wanted a way to get cards they actually needed, so trade tokens were introduced. People wanted to play casually with friends, so 2v2 got added and became one of the most loved features in the game. It felt like the game was growing together with the community, and that's a big reason why Clash Royale stayed popular for so long. Sure, it wasn't perfect. I mean, no game is. We had some balancing issues and other stuff that could have been addressed, but for the most part, it was good. The problem is that over time, that feeling slowly of being heard and growing together, that started to disappear. There wasn't a single update that killed the game. There usually never is one update that kills any game. It was more like a series of moments that kept pushing players away, and when you keep getting those frustrating updates, it can be the last drop in the bucket for many players. Now, I believe the Pass Royale was one of the big turning points. At first, it seemed like a good addition because it gave a lot of rewards for a low price, but it also created a clear difference between players who bought it and players who didn't. About 2 years later came level 14, which didn't add any new gameplay, it just made cards stronger and made progression longer again. Around the same time, the Clash Royale event caused a lot of frustration because players upgraded cards during the event, only to find out right after that the upgrade costs were being reduced. That made people feel like they had wasted resources, and it hurt the trust players had in the game. We did, however, get champions, which for the most part were received well, but it also made the situation even worse for some players because champions were really fun and unique, but they were also very strong and hard to unlock, which made progression feel slower again. Updates started to feel similar with fewer new cards and fewer big features, and the community started getting more negative every year. But then in June of 2023 came one of the biggest breaking points, level 15 and Evolutions. Evolutions were actually a really cool idea, but the way they were added caused a lot of controversy. When they were first released, they were extremely strong. Seriously, like extremely strong. It's nothing to the Heroes or Evolutions we see nowadays. And what made it even worse is that most players couldn't get them right away. This obviously made matches feel extremely unfair. This period pushed a lot of longtime players away from the game, and for the first time, it really felt like Clash Royale was losing its core community. And the way level 15 was introduced was also horrendous. Now, I'm sure you remember the nightmare that level 15 was, but I also want you to remember to subscribe to this channel and maybe toss this video a like. Thanks. Alright, so level 15. Developers said we wouldn't have to spend any gold to upgrade, which technically was true, but instead we had to collect 50,000 elite wildcards for a single level, which ended up being even worse. Gold had always been something you could slowly save up, but elite wildcards were locked behind a much slower grind, and for a lot of players, it felt almost impossible to max out decks again. The update didn't add new gameplay, it just made the grind longer right after many players had finally finished upgrading to level 14. A lot of creators spoke up about this, and some of them were very clearly frustrated with the lack of communication and care from the dev team. B-Rad, who had been quite competitive for years, even stopped trying to keep up completely and refused to upgrade a single card to level 15 as a statement. For many people, that perfectly showed how frustrated the community had become. Because when even the most dedicated players stop caring about progression, you know something isn't right. As far as I remember, this is the first time that a big part of the community spoke up and said they would quit. And for a while, it honestly felt like the game was slowly dying. With each evolution added, it was getting worse. And then tower troops were introduced. Cannoneer was fine, I guess, but it was April of 2024 that really upset a lot of people. The Dagger Duchess fundamentally broke the game completely. She was hard to upgrade, but necessary to even have a chance at competing. And it took forever to get her in a balanced state. And that's kind of how the game had been going: unnecessary updates, community ignored, and no real changes for the better. But then something strange happened. Instead of the game fading out completely, it started showing up in places nobody expected. One of the biggest reasons for that was, of course, Jinxie. He hadn't played Clash Royale seriously in years, and when he came back to the game, it wasn't because of an update or an event. He just tried it again and had fun. And when someone with that many viewers starts playing a game every day, people notice. Suddenly, Clash Royale was everywhere again. Streams, clips, collaborations, tournaments. The game started getting attention from people who hadn't thought about it in years. And the funny part is, this comeback didn't happen because the game was perfect. Not close. It happened even though the game still had problems. The meta was terrible, progression still sucked, and there were still controversial changes. But the core gameplay of Clash Royale is, well, fun. It is a great game, and if you weren't there when all the bad stuff was happening, you wouldn't be that frustrated, and most likely would just have fun. And Jinxie bringing the community back together and introducing it to so many new players, that alone kept the game alive longer than a lot of people expected. It wasn't just a few streams, it became the only thing Jinxie did, and people loved it. The meta still sucked quite a bit, and we weren't getting great changes, but we did get merged tactics, I guess. Despite no real positive changes happening, the game was doing good. The game felt more alive than ever, and people were actually talking about Clash Royale. But then came another huge moment of controversy: level 16. People didn't like level 14, and level 15 was received even more poorly, so level 16 wasn't going to be received well at all either. Instead of excitement, the first response from the community was just exhaustion. It felt like every time players finally caught up with progression, another level got added, pushing the finish line further away yet again. For longtime players, this wasn't even about the grind anymore. It was about the feeling that the game would never let you be done. And when players realized how much time or money it would take to upgrade everything again, the reaction was brutal. So, social media was full of complaints, YouTube comments were full of people saying they were quitting, and even creators who normally stayed positive started to sound frustrated. What made it worse was that this came right after several controversial updates in a row. Instead of feeling like something new and exciting, level 16 felt like the final proof that the game was going in the wrong direction. For many players, this was the moment where they stopped getting angry and just kind of stopped caring. And with the level 16 update, we also had another announcement. Something heroic was coming. As you probably know, the moment heroes were announced, the reaction was rough. A lot of players thought the game was repeating the same mistakes yet again. They looked strong, they looked hard to unlock, and people were worried that what happened with evolutions would happen all over again. The update caused a lot of arguments in the community, and it was clearly a huge cash grab that didn't improve the game in the slightest. And to do it when we finally have the community back stronger than ever, that rubbed people the wrong way. It felt like a kick to the face. And the situation got even more serious when Jinxie himself said he didn't want to keep playing the game unless things improved. When the biggest streamer talking about your game starts saying that, it is a bad sign. For a moment, it really felt like this could finally be the point where Clash Royale actually dies. The community was tired, players were more than frustrated, and even the people bringing attention to the game weren't sure that they wanted to keep going. But this time, something different happened, and it seemed like we truly weren't being heard anymore. No changes to heroes, level 16 still powering through. It all seemed helpless. So bad even that players started to boycott, either by not spending any money on the game or not playing at all. But then toward the end of January, we saw a slight positive change. Clash Royale tweeted something saying, "We heard you, and we made some changes to hero duplicates. After collecting 200 hero fragments, summoning a hero will now unlock a hero you don't already own." They also announced that Classic 1v1, Classic 2v2, and both Classic and Grand Challenge would all only allow one hero slot instead of two. Instead of ignoring the reaction, the developers started making changes, and though this was a small change in comparison to all the bad stuff, it showed that at least something was still heard. Fast forward a few weeks again, and we were met with some changes again. And these were actually some really positive ones. Supercell made a lot of adjustments that the community had been asking for, and for once the update felt like it was trying to make the game better instead of more frustrating. One of the biggest changes is that you can now choose which hero you want to unlock. Before, getting heroes depended a lot on luck, but now you have actual control over your progression. And on top of that, everyone is getting one free hero. Heroes are also being unlocked much earlier, starting at Arena 5, which makes the whole system feel way more accessible instead of something only max players could use. They also changed how evolutions work in decks. Instead of having 4 special slots, it's now limited to 3, 1 hero slot, 1 evolution slot, and 1 wild slot, just like a few weeks prior in the classic game modes. This should make matches feel less chaotic and a bit more balanced, which is one of the biggest complaints after heroes got added. Progression in general is also getting improved. You won't get duplicate cards anymore until you have 60 cards maxed, and even after that, the chance is reduced by a huge amount. We're also getting more hero fragments, better lucky drops, and evolutions are coming back in April in a way that should be easier to obtain. Now, I do think it's important to note that these obviously don't really add content, and it's only slightly fixing some of the earlier mistakes. But it's also really important to realize that we are getting hurt, and I think that's why so many people were happy about this update. But fast forward a few weeks later again, and we do get new content, and this time they hit the jackpot. I am, of course, talking about the Chaos Game mode. Instead of being about progression or levels or spending, it's just a fun mode with crazy rules and unpredictable matches. It feels like the kind of update Clash Royale used to make years ago, where the goal was simply to make the game exciting and fun again. 150 modifiers, hunting for those badges, and having a wild time and tons of fun. This game mode is what we've been begging for. Quite literally. We saw that the Chinese Clash Royale servers had a game mode like this, and we've been asking for it since. And recently, it finally feels like the game is moving in a better direction again. The game isn't perfect, of course, and it still has problems, but for the first time in a long time, it doesn't feel like it's getting worse. Now, you should definitely check out this video if you want to test your Clash Royale skills. I'll see you there.